What is up, everybody? Welcome to the exciting, triumphant return of the True Fate debate. One of my personally favorite topics to cover, to discuss intellectually, philosophically. There is no end to it, really, it seems, but that's what we're here to potentially discover. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the True Fate debate. We appreciate you showing up, showing out, tuning in instead of tuning out. A lot of great programs tonight, so we do appreciate you for choosing the Tribune channel for your source of education, entertainment, and discourse. All right. So we're going to go ahead and dive right on into it. Let me go ahead and get this link for you guys. This is an open panel, right? The True Fate debate open panel. We are going to be able to discuss the potential end all be all. What happens to a person after they die? What happens to the earth at the end of all time? Is there an end? Do we have evidences for that? Are we in cycles? Do we have evidence for that? What do we have evidence for? Awesome stuff. Okay, got the link. And let me get that over to you lovely folks now. So, appreciate you joining me once again. Let's go over here and see who has decided to join us. We have Nick. All these dudes run on a different circadian rhythm than I do, always missing the good shows to prioritize the sleep. That's okay, my friend. This show is recorded, so you will be able to catch it afterwards. I usually leave it up for at least a week over on Rockfin before I make it premium also. So, great way to support the show. Go over and check it out. Link in the description. We got Nuba. Awesome. Jess Palmer, was up? MrTribune. Nominal, what is up, my friend? And MrTribune again. All right. Awesome. And of course, the lovely folks over on Rockfin, the silent legends over there. We appreciate you tuning in. Let's go ahead and drop this link for whoever may want to join. Should be a blast. Should be a blast. All right. We have been having a lot of conversations to this effect over on the Mellow Dome, which you guys will be able to catch me every Sunday morning. Except last week we had the Mother's Day extravaganza. Super fun. If you missed it, go check out the stream. Folks, somebody click on that link. Let me know if it's working or not. Sometimes we have problems with it. But don't all jump at once, right? True Fate debate. All right. So what inspired me initially to do this kind of style of debate actually goes way back when I was a Christian the first time, and I thought that I knew everything, and debating just comes naturally. I always like to challenge myself and others, so I would butt heads and try to sharpen the iron, as they say. And so I love this style of debate. I've since then come a long way. I've learned meditation. I've learned, what I would consider, for the most part, the real scriptures, the real Bible. I have learned astral projection and lucid dreaming. Crazy stuff, right? Some people believe that we don't even have the ability to, exist as a soul. Like we are actually just the flesh, and everything that we experience as consciousness is nothing more than neurons firing in certain ways. I'm sure that our guest from last night, Delcos, would make that argument. So really, really interesting conversation to have. If that is the worldview, and all that awaits us is just the black nothing, my goodness, that would be kind of nuts, right? I tend to lean towards the belief that when I die, I will inhabit that spirit body that I inhabited when I was astral projecting. So, of course, I'm sure some would say that's a hallucination as well, but who knows? Folks, we do have the link. Let's go ahead and check it out. Let me make sure that nobody is trying to join. Not yet, but we got some more people in the Rockfin. What is up? We got Three Fingers. Stephanie Campbell. I have had a near-death experience. Very real to me. That would be a great conversation if you want to come on up. Near-death experiences always fascinate me. That and dream interpretation. People have all kinds of crazy dreams, and sometimes, sometimes you can't always find the meaning to it. And sometimes you wonder if it's if you just were in an astral projection and didn't know it. Who knows? I recently had a conversation with Miss Maria from Free Float over on BitChute. You guys can find my post about it and go click that link. Awesome little show, but we will be doing a watch party here soon. Haven't decided the day just yet. I'm going to find out when some other streams are and try to schedule the fringe streams a little better. Already kind of butting heads with a few people, but obviously it's all love. No hate, as they say. Just want to make sure that everybody can, be a part of the live experience if they want to be. But I have no issues with people flipping through. I know that that's what I do because I have a lot of people that I have to support as well. So, again, it's all love. But let's go ahead and make sure that we can have this conversation. Otherwise, just going to be me rattling on about some stuff that you guys have probably already heard about, right? Like you already know the astral projection versus lucid dreaming, the nuance, the difference. The question that we could get into is it evil, right? Would it be evil to do that? In my conversation with Sean from Kingdom in Context, we actually had it had come up that he seems to believe that if you will to do it yourself, that somehow is that somehow is evil, or that you're trying to, maybe it's beyond that. Maybe it's when you're trying to exercise control over others, which I would agree. Trying to swing your will around, right, is not the best way to be. So, is this super funny? Quite possibly, Cammy. I'm actually trying to work on my mediumship. This is gonna let's go ahead and drive that dividing line hard as hell, right? No offense to anybody, of course, but I believe there are spirits, wandering around. I want to try to communicate with them, right? I don't care if you believe that they're gonna try to trick me, right? And they might, right? They might intend to deceive me, but that doesn't mean that I don't want to have the conversation, right? I mean, after all, we're wanting to go and have conversations with astronauts, and they're certainly, certainly probably deceiving us. So, anyway, I think that this is a whole interesting realm to dive into. I've also been learning more about, what's the guy's name, Bob Beck, and and his research. How, um, here's something that's pretty interesting. For those of you who've heard of like hemisync, it's like you put the binary beats on and then it does the frequencies at certain ways to hit at certain parts in your brain to then give you a response, like a hallucinogenic or a out of body experience. Well, it doesn't always work. And the reason why, excuse me, the reason why is going to be because it's actually not the sound frequency that is doing the work in the hemisync, quote, hemisync effect. It's actually the magnetic pulse from the device that is giving the effect. And this has been studied, it's been known. And that's why when you're going down these trails, it's important to take the good, leave the bad, and try to build the best thing that you can for yourself as far as like what your reality is, because I find that there are half truths everywhere. Absolutely, Cami, referring to the Monroe Institute. And, upon what I'm learning, I don't believe they're telling the full truth on how their technology was operating, and that's probably because they'll make more money with people coming into their institute and signing up to be a part of their club. Jeremy Bird, what is up, my friend? Austin, good times for all. Nobody is late. Everybody is right on time, as they should be. Let me pin the link, and you guys let me know if you are having any trouble with it. Boom. There you are. Anybody who wants to join and discuss any of their crazy spiritual experiences, ghost stories, this is the true fate debate, right? So if you have an opposing sort of view, if you think that we're full of shit, mind my language, but this is not a kid's show, right? Then we definitely want you to come on up and tell us why, right? That would be splendid. So let me go ahead, and I actually think I lost the Zoom. Let me go ahead and pull it back up. Nope, did not. I'm gonna have to post a new link though every time because I do not pay for what's it called? Zoom Pro, right? Just don't do it. Might consider doing it because these digital backgrounds are absolutely awesome. I think AI would be a way to bridge the spirit world with ours. Hmm. I wonder why we would think that. Possibly though, if it's actually magnetism, a magnetic effect that's affecting our consciousness, then maybe our what I was thinking before about consciousness being somehow somehow separate from these forces of magnetism and electrostatics. Maybe I was incorrect on that. So again, always doing the research and never too married to an idea allows you to flow into the truth, right? So awesome stuff, guys. Appreciate you coming on. We got Nuba over in the chat over at the Rockfin, of course, doing the heavy lifting. Huge shout out. Ah, nice. Zachary Zabala, welcome to the show. Let me go ahead and pull you in.
What is going on, man? How are we doing tonight?
And we're doing awesome. Thank you for coming on. It is a pleasure to see you. Let me go ahead
Yeah.
and I'm still still looking for the thing. I always lose it, even though it's in the same spot every time. All right,
So
Zach,
I
welcome.
have a story for you.
Awesome, man. Fire away.
I was about maybe 8 years old. I was at my cousin's house, and I'm not sure what time it was. It was middle of the night. Um, we slept in the same water bed together. We were we were 8 years old. It was just. And I woke up in the middle of the night. Don't know why. I never woke up in the like in the middle of the night. I usually never did that when I was younger. And just happened to look up at the closet. It was dark in the room, but there was a street light outside, and it would of course the closet's all black and shadowy, and then there was trees that you could see that were being projected, the shadows onto the walls. And they caught my eye for a second. I was looking at them, and I noticed this weird silhouette coming out of like the closet that looked like a head wearing a hat, like from the side view. I could see its nose and its mouth, and then it was wearing like a top hat.
Oh, dude.
And I was like, weird. Where's that shadow coming from? Because I've laid there in that bed 100 times. We lived in the same city. We were best friends, always sleeping over at each other's houses. So I'm sitting there looking. I was like, what can be causing that shadow? Because the street lights, way up in the air. It's not like close to the ground. And all of a sudden, the shadow's head turned and like looked directly at me. And I closed my eyes real fast and threw my covers up over my head and didn't open them until I woke up the next day. But as soon as I got up, I asked my cousin. I was like, man, I saw a shadow come out of your closet. Have you ever seen that? And he looked, and we were young, 8 years old. He looked at me with the most serious look in the world and said, yes, I know about him. I don't want to talk about it. And we talked about everything, everything. But whatever they were, whatever it was, he had seen it too. And it scared him so much that he didn't even want to speak about it.
Man,
But that's my story.
that's
Yeah.
intense. So let me go ahead and do a little relation first, and I'll go ahead and ask, right? Because sometimes people, throw little gotchas in there at times, right? Because belief, let's be honest, belief is the enemy of knowing, but the subject matter that we're dealing with is going to require some level of um personal testimony.
Yeah.
So I'll just be point blank with you. Is that like a very true story? Or is
Yes, 100%. Um, yeah, no, I can see it still. I have
so
one of those memories where I recall visions that I've seen, and no, I get goosebumps just thinking about it.
so I gotta stop you because you give them to me. I'm really empathic, and when you were telling the story, at certain parts of the story, I trying to find the best words for this. I felt the rush of the terror, if that makes sense, and it just goes all the way down to your feet. It's intense as hell,
Yeah, oh
and
yeah. It's
and
not something I think about often, but when someone asks about a weird, have you ever seen anything that you can't explain? That's the first thing that always pops right into my head.
have you
Is that
seen
shadow thing?
have you seen Mindshock's logical analysis on the ghosts and top hat entities?
No.
Oh man,
So
you're in for
people
it,
have seen the top hat?
bro. It's so common. In fact, I have my own story. So then this is another like very very relatable, very relatable. So I lived in a house in Bartow, Florida, and this house was up on stilts out in the country. Like had a like swamp lake in the back and like a half acre out in the front. The very secluded, and we were having trying to remember exactly actually what was going on at the time. There was a lot. I had a roommate that was causing a lot of trouble. He was like dealing drugs out of the house and throwing big parties and stuff like that, and things just started to get like messy, right? And so anyway, we just kicked this guy out, and um, long story short, I'm starting to get the heebie-jeebies because I'm having like weird things happen. Like the curtains are moving in very, very weird. You know how your house acts. When you live there for so long,
Yeah.
and you're
Oh
starting to
yeah.
see things out of place. You're starting to have things be turned on. The usual poltergeist activity, and I'm just starting to get the heebie-jeebies. And um, this is one of those times where I'm clutching the Bible. you know, I was religious at the time, and so we go. I can't remember what the reason was, but I think when it was, yeah, it was a cat. We had an outdoor cat that we were going to go drop some food off for. We had a food tray at the bottom of the steps, and so we're going down. Me and my girl Jessica are going downstairs to drop this food off, and now she didn't see it, unfortunately, and I wish she did. But I seen um, something that was very very big. It's about 6.5 feet, and appeared to have some sort of hat, which I didn't know how else to say, but like a top hat. But it could have also been like because it wasn't right. It was actually pretty far back. It was at the furthest still, and it was dark, admittedly. But I saw this thing, and I did a double take, and this thing was obviously not there anymore. But I just had this sense of just fear.
Get out.
Yeah,
Leave.
it's like
Yeah.
it was like I did not want to be there anymore. That was for sure. And so I basically scoured and got real deep into the Bible. I started like reading through it, and I was like, man, I gotta know what I'm supposed to do here. And basically, it just tells you that you're just supposed to endure and keep the behavior. So I'm like, oh man, no real
But
yeah,
yeah.
no real great advice there. Um, but the activity actually died down within a few weeks, and it was like that was the peak of it. and it kind of died down from there. And then we moved, so we didn't really deal with that specific entity per se. But since then, I've had dreams of black amorphous mobs, chasing and morphing everybody into that blob, and just real weird stuff like
Wow.
that.
Yeah, and I had stayed in that room 100 more times after that. That was my cousin's room until he was like 18, and then he moved downstairs for like a year. But I never saw it again. Never saw it again. And I even brought it up one more time when we were in our 20s. And he still said, no, I don't want to talk about that.
Mm.
It was weird. It was really, really weird. Whatever I saw, I believe he saw a lot more of it than I did.
Now, I will also say something else, and I'll say that this is an argument from incredulity. Or it's not really an argument, but if I could go back and redo how I interacted with previous, spiritual things, I would completely change how I felt and try to remain completely neutral, because I'm having a theory that they may just be feeding off of whatever emotion we give it, whatever
Mm-hmm.
it may be. And if your natural inclination to something you don't understand is fear, especially something that's big, right? It's like, okay, that could be a threat. So it makes sense, physically that you'd be scared. Excuse me. But I kind of wonder what would happen if you did not show any fear whatsoever and you actually tried to engage in real dialogue. I don't think I've ever seen a story of somebody doing that.
Now, we did a show with a guy. He was a psychiatrist for 29 years, and he specifically dealt with paranoid schizophrenics. And he had another colleague that dealt with shadow people more than him. But he did have a guy that was doing meth for like 9 years, like hardcore. He said the guy, his veins and everything were gone, like everything on
Oof.
this guy. He's like, he'd never seen somebody so far gone. But this guy not only told him about the shadow people, but a shadow person entered his body and started talking in this demonic, deep, crazy voice. This was while he was at the ER at a hospital. He said when he was working in state institutions, he would try to talk to his other colleagues about, hey, all these schizophrenics, the voices are all saying the exact same thing to all of them. And they're like, should, and they're like, no, 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 the voices aren't real. You don't focus on the voices. You tell them they're not real, this and that, blah, blah, blah. Well, he then went to work for a prison for a while where he had free reign. And he was actually, he knew what these voices in these people's heads were going to say to them before they'd say it to him. Like, yeah, Jerry Marzinski, he wrote a book on this and everything. He was blackballed from the community and he's trying to get this word out. He has a gentleman who was a schizophrenic, um, institutionalized for it, that he's been helping get over this. And he did a second live stream with us and he brought this gentleman on. It was amazing. But no, I believe these entities are very real. And the shadow people, as far as Jerry believes, he thinks there's like a hierarchy. It's there's more than it's not like I don't know how to explain it, but there's a lot of these things.
So it'd be
And they
pretty
do,
much,
they feed off fear.
if I may offer a little clarity, I would definitely agree that fear would be if they are emotional entities that are feeding off of emotion, the fear that I felt in the presence of that was, some of the most intense fear that I've ever had in my entire life. And
Frozen. Frozen.
I've only had one that well, I can't say one other time, but it was pretty rare that I would have that, but it was always in dreams that I would have that. I was never ever that scared in real
Yeah, me
life.
too. Yeah, I was tormented at a young age with my dreams a lot. My first dream, was of the devil that I can remember. It was
Mm.
at my grandmother's house. And we were all there. And then somebody yelled because they were looking out the window and they said, he's coming. Everybody run and hide. And everybody just scattered. I was freaking out. So I ran to the window and all I saw were hoof prints burned into the driveway. I didn't see him. So I went and ran and hid, and I could hear him walk through the door, and he just walked straight up to me, and I was hiding under the blanket. My she had this Afghan quilt, like little, not a chest, but just a like a big basket, a real big one, could hold like 4 or 5 full size blankets. And I got in there and I crawled underneath the first blanket and I pulled it over my head. He walked right up to me, pulled the blanket down, and just stared at me with these green, like glowing eyes, and just stay. And then I woke up right there. But that's the first dream that I can remember.
Now the debate becomes, once we, you know, and again, I tend to believe that not every single story of this, when it's personal like this, space is one thing. It's not so personal. You worked on a machine, you sent the machine off, and then somebody claimed to get data from the machine and then sends that data to you, tells you that's from the machine. Um, a little bit different, but with this, it's like, okay, these are real people that are telling very similar stories. Mind Shock has done a great analysis on the shadow people. It's like 6 hours long. It's nuts. That
Wow.
guy
Yeah.
goes in, right? Does a lot of heavy lifting. And of course, there is always some speculation. You're not going to be able to avoid it. But again, I can only speak from my personal experience. And I do believe that these things are real. The debate becomes, what is the nature of these things ultimately, right? Are they just demons, fear sucking things, or do they serve some other purpose? And I was looking a little, should tread carefully, right? There's a order that I've heard about called the Order of Nine Angles that was supposedly one of the higher up SS organizations. It was like the inner circle of the inner circle.
Wow.
And what they would do is they would directly interact with some of these entities, and there definitely was a hierarchy. And for all intents and purposes, people could refer to those entities as like demons, right? And it was said, quote, and granted, this is just hearsay, right? But it was said that they definitely, excuse me, appreciated sacrifice, whatever that meant. So really,
Wow.
potentially really awful dark stuff.
Yeah, and they like it when you hurt yourself, I've heard. Like, and then they'll heal you, supposedly. This one guy, now this was a story that Jerry had heard one of the guys say to him. The guy was doing meth for like 4 days straight, him and his buddy, and they were out in the desert, and one of them would start smoking until he could see a shadow person and ask the other guy, "Hey, do you see that one over there?" He's like, "Nope." And then he would stop and the other guy would start smoking a bunch,
What would
and
they
then he would see one.
what were they smoking?
Crystal meth.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I actually have heard that that's a side effect of smoking crystal meth is shadow people. I first
Yeah.
learned about that watching Breaking Bad.
And then supposedly the guys separated for some reason, and the shadow people all surrounded one of them and told him that they won't hurt you if you go and throw yourself in front of the next car, and told him that it wouldn't hurt. And he did it, and he said he was laying there like all it hurt. He didn't know what was wrong with him. He
Oh,
was
it hurt.
really, yeah, it hurt.
Shoot.
But then he said they came up and fixed him, and the pain went away, and he could walk again. And now that's a story of a story of a story, from someone else. So do I full heartedly believe any of that? No, the guy was on meth, a meth head. But
Right, and he probably just made it because he was super limp, when he got hit by the car, and what probably only thought it was going fast. They probably slammed on the brakes because some idiot threw himself in front of the
Yeah.
car. And then when they was like, shit, I just hit somebody. Probably should just go.
But yeah, there's a lot of these stories about these shadow entities. Now, what Jerry always says is the best way to combat them is to acknowledge them but laugh.
It's
Like,
your it's your attitude, it's your emotion.
yeah, he says that these things, it's not just the schizophrenics that hear these things. We all hear these things. They speak to all of us. When you're driving down the highway and you get this crazy thought in your head, hey, I'm just going to go smash into this oncoming car. You ever had one of those weird, crazy thoughts out of nowhere?
I've had the I think everybody, well, I can't say that. Um I do know what you're referring to though. I'll just say that. The
Just an
crazy
insane thought. Yeah,
the random impulsive thoughts. There's a joke going
hurting
on.
something,
There's a
or
joke
yeah,
going on Facebook that's like the person's cutting a tomato and then they got the voice that's like cut yourself. It's like, oh my god.
well, that's them. And what they're doing is fishing. They're seeing if they can get a response out of you and get you to act upon them, or at least, give a real, like, whoa, what was that? And then they might poke and prod a little bit more. Most people that just ignore it, they don't tend to mess with them too much. But when you laugh at them, then it's like you're on this list where they don't come. I haven't, as soon as I started doing this 2 years ago, uh, I don't have those crazy thoughts anymore. Like those crazy thoughts. And if I do, I just laugh. Haha, good try. Better luck next time. I'll say something like that out loud, even driving down the road by myself or wherever I am. If one of those crazy thoughts pops into my head, I just laugh, and they don't happen nearly as much as they used to. Now, I don't know if that's because my life has gotten so much better. I'm so much happier now than, I was when I was in Indiana. I don't know if that has something to do with it, but I don't have these, I just say evil thoughts. I don't have them anymore. And it started when, after I talked to Jerry and he told me about this stuff. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't,
There are
I'll try anything. I'm one of those guys that'll, if that's all I have to do is like cloud bursting or something like that. If all I have to do is sit there and focus my attention, or yeah, I'll try it. Now, crystal meth, no, I don't want to try it. I'm just not.
say no to drugs, kids.
Yeah, yeah.
Say yes to Tribune merch at
There you go.
troublingtribune.com.
Yeah, I like that coffee mug. That's sharp.
Thanks, man. They're available and cheap.
I'll have to
Every
pick me one
purchase
up.
goes to support the show. I was
Well, man, it's getting a little late. I'm an early bird, but I wanted to come on and share my story with you. Yeah, 100% happened, and I will never ever forget it as long as I live. That's one of those memories that's just, it terrified me so much I froze.
yeah,
And I've been in
paralyzing
some
fear.
positions where I was close to death, like in vehicles and stuff like that, and I didn't freeze. I reacted. But this like was beyond fight or flight. I didn't have an option to do either. I was
Have you had an experience as an adult?
yeah, I had a fight or flight. Actually, I was out at Lake Michigan at night in, I think it was February, March, real cold, nobody out there. I was taking pictures of Chicago from across from Michigan City, Indiana, the lighthouse there. And I was walking back. I had my camera, my tripod, a bunch of thermometers and all kinds of stuff that I had with me. I was taking readings, and all of a sudden, three guys start sprinting down the boardwalk at me from about 100 yards away. And I'm standing here. I'm like, shit. Behind me is the lighthouse. There is no running away. I could run a little bit. I could try to swim in 30-degree water. That'd be fun.
Ugh, risky business.
But I was in a kind of a dangerous neighborhood, so I did have my collapsible baton and my knife on me. So I set my stuff down, and I was wearing a big giant Carhartt and big Carhartt overalls. So I'm a skinny guy,
I'm
but when
sorry.
I'm wearing that,
I'm
I look
laugh
like a big guy.
I'm laughing because I laugh during nervous situations, but I could just imagine you having to go like Duke Nukem on some on some people running
Oh,
at you. Like I'm here to
the
kick
last
ass and chew bubble
the
gum.
last thought I thought was, I'm probably not going to win this, but I'm taking one of these people with me.
That's
Somebody's going to get hurt.
everybody always says that. That's
Yeah,
like the go-to line.
yeah. One of y'all's getting fucked up. That's excuse me, pardon my French, but yeah, one of you is getting messed up. You guys made, and I threw out my baton and I held my knife to where they could see that it was a blade. And when they got about maybe 20 feet away, they all stopped and then just started walking and
I
walked
bet.
right by me. And
Yeah,
I
they're
was just like,
not trying to get stabbed today.
yeah. And I just turned and kept them in front, right in front of me as they walked by me. And they just kept walking. And I was like, whoa. I was proud of myself for that one. Because the thought did pop into my head, jump in the water. Because it was only like maybe a 20-yard swim. There was like a little canal right there running along that boardwalk out to there. And I was like, yeah, I bet I could swim that. But no, I decided not to. And yeah, nothing happened. Scared me a lot. But yeah, that was my last fight or flight thing that I've been in.
Well, that's awesome that you were able to, be prepared and have the tools necessary to defend yourself. Something that not everybody thinks is necessary in this country, which I think is hilarious. We should
Yeah,
definitely just leave it up to the police and the authorities. They will protect us.
yeah, I would have been laying there beaten probably if I would have done that. No, I don't go waving my weapons around ever. I never unsheath my knife ever in public until I plan on using it. But yeah, it was a good thing to have in that situation. It probably saved me from a really bad evening.
The other
But
question that
brother, oh
oh,
yeah,
that's
go
right.
ahead.
You gotta bounce on out. But I was just curious if we had any authorities on good spirits.
Mm, I think they're there. Um, I I don't know if that what that little voice in my head is, but it steered me in some really great directions. You know, I was initiated into Demolay when I was 11, Freemasonry for children,
Oh wow.
and they gave me a little paragraph. I was going to join this little paragraph to memorize. Went to the Mason Hall, was walking down the stairs, and it was all dark with candles and these guys standing in black robes. And as soon as my foot hit the floor, that little voice in my head screamed, "Get out of here!" Like it's never screamed at me before. It always talked. This time it screamed at me, "Get out of here! You don't want anything to do with this. Tell them you want to go right now." And I looked up at him. I said, I don't think I want to do this. And you know how usually when a child says that, an adult are like, oh, come on, it'll be fine. They'll say something like that. Nope, nothing. They're like, oh, okay. Turned around, we walked right back upstairs. They let me. That was it.
They got some
And I
sort of
always thought
deal
that was
worked
really
out.
weird how they just let it go. Because usually an adult would be like, oh, come on, everybody's doing it. Let's go. Come on, let's play the game or whatever. But they were just like, oh, okay, fine. Because I
So,
think they have to play by certain rules.
so the masonry play by the rules of pure will, right?
Hmm.
They won't take an unwilling participant.
Yep. And I think that's why they were just like, oh, okay, take care.
It's
But yeah,
true.
that was one of my good, whatever that was a good thing in my opinion. That probably I probably wouldn't be the person I am today if I joined that organization at that age. So yeah, I'm very grateful for whatever that was that screamed at me that day that said, "Get out of here."
You'd be Sire Zabala about to reach his 33rd degree and ascend.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh man. But brother, great job. Keep up the show. I'm gonna be getting me one of them coffee mugs here real soon. And
Man,
yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
absolutely, man. I'm sorry I cut you off so many times. It's just,
No, I talk too much. I know.
no, it's just
Yeah.
so it's such an interesting conversation that I just can't help myself with certain topics because I know that with this type of thing it can run away really fast.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. A lot of different avenues and stuff to go down. But for sure,
Absolutely.
we'll definitely have to have this conversation. We got to have you over at Have No Sphere Friday nights if you're free one Friday night. We'll have you over and we'll have this conversation.
What time do you start it?
About 6:30 Eastern.
Oh, nice. That'll work perfectly. Yeah, we'll do that.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I'll get in touch with you, brother.
Sounds like a plan, man. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, anytime, man. You have a great evening.
You as well.
All right, bye.
Awesome guest, guys. Do not be shy. Click that link. Let me go ahead and make this smaller. There's no reason for me to be that big. No reason at all. Whoops, click the wrong thing. Okay. Shout out to Wes FE with the very generous tip. Thank you very much, my friend. We will, in fact, keep on crushing in our pursuit for the truth. What up, Shifty Eyes? Shady, we appreciate you. Lord Racer, Bill Wheel, Crocodile Dundee. That's not a knife. This is a knife. It's all about oi. You gotta soften that hard eye. All right. Brianna Lynn, huge shout out. Melodome in the house, man. Jump on, my friend. The link is pinned. Chatting it up. All right, awesome. Yeah, so just to lighten it up just a little bit, there were people who, we were talking a lot about like some dark stuff, right? Some dark entities, possibly some demons, right? Some evil stuff. And there are people out there who actually attempt to like summon these things supposedly and like harness their power. And it's very possible that we're dealing with people like that at the top of the world, right? Um, very, very possible. Anton LaVey, he was the head of the Satanic Church, actually said he was quoted as saying there are some people who draw protection circles around them when they're summoning demons, and you'll never be powerful that way. Absolutely wild quote. Absolutely wild quote. How can you let the demons in if you protect yourself, right? Um, yeah, so it's very possible that we're dealing with like we see in regular nature, right? There's good and evil, right? Or positive and negative, chaos and order. Maybe it's all perspective, right? As they say, what is chaos to the fly is a normal day for the spider, right? So who knows? But that's why we're here to have the discourse. So jump on in, click that link. Will you still be yourself after you pass away? Whether you maintain a spirit or not, is it all ego? Do you need to kill your ego in order to reach some sort of nirvana? There are so many different philosophies, and I would love to talk about each and every one of them eventually. But this is the kickoff, the triumphant return of the true Earth, or the true fate debate. Which, by the way, the true Earth cosmology is integral into this debate, right? In the cosmos, if you are going with the mainstream scientific atheist worldview, then you would also, of course, believe that this is supported by all the amazing, not fabricated discoveries from the mainstream scientific community. Jesus Christ, I keep hiccuping because of this tea. It was so good, I just chugged it. Man, what are you gonna do? Apologies, right? But you guys only have yourselves to blame because I could be hiccuping in silence as my guest shares some of the floor, right?
What's
Nice.
up?
Mellow Dome. Austin, what is up, my friend?
You hear me all right?
Yes, sir. Let me pull you. Well, are you gonna go on camera at all, or
Nah, I'll
uh,
stay like this. I'm
all
on my
good?
phone.
No worries, homie. I'll just leave
I
my
mean, if the audio is bad,
No, you're up already. It's just the video. I don't have the video pulled up for you, but that's totally
yeah, I'm not
fine.
on camera. I mean, I'm sitting in the dark in my studio right now.
Nice, dude. The Mellow Dome studio where all the magic happens.
Yeah, yeah, dude. Yeah. I kind of want to comment on what Zach was saying, uh, but I don't want it to like lead into another discussion that you just had, But I've experienced, I guess you would call them shadow people, and my mom did too when she was got sick and diagnosed with cancer. And a lot of weird things happened. I think that there is maybe spirits, I don't know, or residual energy, or I don't know. But the whole afterlife thing and like reincarnation, a lot of people promote that reincarnation, but to me, that just sounds like a freaking nightmare. And I've said that before. I'll still stand by that. you know, uh, I don't know. Like I'm not atheist. I think that this place was created. I'm not religious. I think all the religions are a form of control. I think that hell is a place that man created, and most likely heaven. Like this idea of spending eternity and worshiping the person who gave you this fraction of a life on this physical plane. That doesn't sound like a good time to me. I never met this person. I'm supposed to just like go worship this person.
Okay, get
Yeah, I don't even think God is a being or thing. I don't know. But yeah. Anyways,
that's a good point though. It's like we're supposed to fall to our knees and absolutely love and worship unconditionally this thing that like we haven't even kicked it with supposedly. But I guess the religions would make the argument that, well, yeah, that's the problem. If you don't kick it with them while you're alive, then you're not gonna get to kick it with them.
well,
And
here's the thing. I've had spiritual interact like what do you call them? I had situations, personally for me that tells me there is this divine something, but I don't know. I don't think it's like I've had these situations, but nothing came to me and told me like, "Hey, I'm Jesus," or it wasn't anything like that. It was on a way deeper level than that. It could
right,
be many things. Smells, senses. Even bad things that eventually later on you find out were pretty divine situations that happened at that exact moment, because we're not looking at the bigger picture that like the creator could be looking at. I don't know, but I think we're trying to like quantify all this, and I don't think there is this all loving God or an all evil God. I don't think there is a God necessarily looking down on all of us and overseeing things. It's just, I mean, and to think that there is, and to think that God to come down and intervene, doesn't that cancel the idea of free will? If God were to come and save us from ourselves,
right. It's like, how can you interfere with a supposedly perfect plan?
yeah. Well, I mean, even when there's devastating ones, like that's why there's no answered prayers when people are like, "God, why did you take this person from me?" and all of these things, because it's not there. You know, I have a hard time going along with when you die, you're going to this other life. You have this whole other life. You're given another name, another purpose, and then there's possibly all these other lives that you had or previous lives, and to me, that's all hocus pocus for the most part. And they could just all be DMT trips, super heavy DMT trips, and we're thinking it's some real thing.
So you
It
don't.
could be, our mind plays tricks on us.
So I will agree with you 100% that the idea of reincarnation versus nirvana or rejoining with source is a definitely a common idea that you run into in the mainstream religious circles. It's like purported with the new age spiritualism. So I definitely get what you're saying there, but I'm also in the camp that not everything that makes its way around because of its use is necessarily a complete deception. I think that it's a little bit more nuanced than that. But so you don't believe in reincarnation at all then?
Um, I don't like the idea of it.
Well, not liking
You
the
know,
idea of it is a little bit different than
well, I don't believe it. No.
fair enough. So you would say then that all the stories from the quote crystal children are just that would just be fabricated stories.
I I mean they're awesome stories, but that's I mean what they are. And they're from crystal children. They're also from people that think that they're from some other planet on some other galaxy,
Nice.
right? There's even people that,
That's
claim
true.
that. So, you know, yeah, stories.
Well, I think that that could possibly be a misunderstanding, right? Because we really don't know anything about the lights in the sky. There were supposedly there's a
Right,
man.
but they're adding their like programming into their visions, you know what I mean? Like
Sure.
they weren't told, like they only had that hallucination because their construct believed that to be true programming. So how much do we just make up in our own head? I don't know.
Probably.
Like
I mean,
people say
possibly all of it.
dreams, like dreams or other realities or doorways to other worlds. I've had, the dumbest dreams ever. I don't know. I don't know. It becomes so much fantasy to me. And then like a whole multiverse thing. I don't buy into that simulation. No. And life can be super brutal, man. Where's the all-loving God in a super brutal ass world?
Yeah,
You
dude.
know?
Where's the love?
Where's the love at? Like, if he's such an all-powerful God, why is he sitting here letting these rich, old-ass white dudes destroy everything?
Well, look, I'm gonna. Oh, whoopsie daisy, lost you, Melodome. Let me go ahead and get you back. Gotta relaunch the Zoom meeting. This always happens, right? Unprepared, unprofessional. But you guys still tune in and still love it, and I love you. That's where the love is really. So let's go ahead and get Mr. Austin back here. Alrighty, and boom. We are here. Melodome. I had to redo the thing. Come on back. Welcome. Forgot to let you know we were almost out of time.
All right. Sorry.
It's all no.
And
I'm
for the
sorry.
record, before we get into it any further, because I don't want to upset anybody, because oh man, it's such a different thing. I'm not an atheist. I'm just staying honest with myself and not going to just adopt something because all these religions are saying it's so, or just the crystal children, you know. And then the idea of people say, "Oh, this death is not a real death." It's most certainly a real fucking death. Okay, people go away and they aren't here anymore. So in this physical form, we can we can go into stories and what we think to be true, but they're not here. And then they say we have a soul. Well, if that soul isn't here anymore, so it's at a whole nother location, a whole nother place, another physical realm, or are they embodying some other body? There's all these what if questions. That's all they are to me, questions. It's not me saying there is no God, there is nothing after this, blah blah blah. My base answer is I don't know. And then when we get into these discussions, I'm gonna have these what if questions, just keeping honest to myself, So for people who are strong in their beliefs, good for you. For me, I'm not, I don't know. And I've looked at scriptures. I know there's people saying, well, you haven't looked at the scriptures and this is I've I've dove into all that. I was a huge Bible thumper through all of high school, hosting Bible studies, and it's been years, but I went through all those phases. And then you've learned of other religions. Like if you ever ask a Christian, have they ever heard of Zoroastrianism? Have you ever heard of Zoroastrianism?
Yeah, actually.
I'm sure you have because you're actually researching all of this. But you can ask the average Christian what that is. They've never heard of it. And that predates the three major religions, Zoroastrianism, but no one knows what it is.
Yeah, but it's because it's the
So
precursor to Christianity.
exactly, to all of them, Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, all of those. So people don't even really know. They don't know what really happened in the past. These are all just stories from any other book. It's an amazing book. I've gotten a lot of great information out of it. The book of James is great. Teaches you a great way how to treat others how you treat yourself, and teaches you how to control your tongue, meaning controlling what comes out of your mouth, right? Because if you don't control your tongue, you're not controlling yourself. It's like the bit to a horse's mouth, the sails to a boat. There's a lot of good information, but there's also a lot of crap in that book, right? And there's also a lot of things left out that people don't know about, that it's not canon. All of a sudden we're treating it like Star Wars, and if it's canon or not, silly.
I'm doing some research into that, and apparently the Apocrypha books were actually taken out, not specifically because they're, again, working backwards, right? Because we don't have the originals of anything. When they started finally like really putting this stuff together, they were scouring the scrolls and stuff. So
Right.
people had done that. They put it together, and then it was this full list of books, including the Apocrypha. And then they were going through and looking at it and going through the message of it. And there's an actual test in Old Testament called the Deuteronomy 13 test. And I mean, it's actually philosophy. It's not called the Deuteronomy 13 test, but that's what it is. And what it says is that God is going to put, quote, stumbling blocks in front of people to test them, to test, quote, Israel, to see if they love the Lord their God, which if you read back, that just meant the law, because the word was God. So it was coming back to see if they loved doing the behavior and doing the works. So if somebody else came and did wonders, right, and those wonders did not come to pass, then you know that they are not of God, right? That was the first way that you know not to follow a prophet, that were false. The second way was a lot trickier, and this is not very talked about very much. It is that if they do wonders and those things do happen, right, and they make predictions and these things do come to pass, but they tell you to follow other mighty ones, or another way of saying that would be to follow other behaviors, right? Because the ultimate thing that they were worried about was Israel doing the things that the pagans were doing. So,
Right.
So they put this test out there, and they say if either of these two scenarios happen, then you know that it's a false prophet, and you should put them to death at their own hand, right? Or at your own hand. So there's no apostasy in like old school Christianity either. So it's like people who argue that we should really go back to that. It's like, well, if we did go back to that and we adopted it fully, just know that we would be advocating putting people to death that even questioned it. So, and that's accurate. That's accurate. I haven't seen anybody from defending the scriptures, put something for this point, right? But I'm sure there is something, right? They wouldn't keep believing it if there wasn't something. So I'm always interested to hear it. Folks out there who are in the audience who do know
I
the
like
scriptures well.
what your wife said. Sorry, bro. I'm reading the chat. I had to pull the chat up and see what people were saying.
Well, go ahead and
but your
shout
wife
it out.
just said in order for there to be creation. Damn, I just lost it. Okay. In order for there to be creation, there must be destruction. And unfortunately, most times destruction comes through as evil.
Facts. So this actually is a great point. I was talking about this with Maria over with Free Float when we were talking about religion. And the thing that came up was that basically she was asking me if like I believed in evil, right? And I said, well, ultimately, I think that the ultimate will of creation, God, if you will, is working all things for the greater good. And that is my belief. It's what I choose to believe, right? I don't have evidence for this. You could look around and say that everything is going to shit and make the argument that God sucks and that he's letting this place just go completely kaploop. But I believe that everything's being worked out for the good despite that, and that
Me
evil
too.
is coming through as very powerful teaching tools. The other way of saying it is that the world is the most cruel but effective teacher.
Oh, that's so true. I definitely vibe with that. I do feel like everything is working out for the good, even though it's like ugly in its moments. I can even say that through experience. You know, there's been tragic times in the moment, man, they were terrible, but now on the longer outlook on it, you know, those were pivotal moments that, you know, those were the crossroads, those were the fork. I had many forks that were placed in my path, and because of my free will, I had these options that were laid before me. And based off my you know, mental decisions and the way I handled things, good or bad, determined the outcome of that path, right? And then it led to more openings and more forks in the roads. And when you hit that fork in the road, when you hit those moments that just can be tragic and hard and gut wrenching, and you know, life can be very unforgiving. And you know, there's a lesson to learn out of everything. You know,
Right.
everything happens for a reason. I still stand by that, even with a lot of shit that can happen in the world, and unfair things that can happen. I don't know. To me, I just feel like it all happens for a reason. You know, whether you see it as unjust, that person, you know, whether like say a person loses their life, um, like even taking the wrong, being at the wrong place in the wrong time, you chose certain steps to get to that wrong place at the wrong time. You know what I mean? Like, so everything happens for a reason.
And
You know,
the other thing is just because you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel doesn't mean that there isn't. Maybe you're just looking in
right?
the wrong direction.
Maybe, maybe. But my thing is like, I mean, I don't really know what to argue because I mean, no. So you don't believe in this in any scriptures? What do you believe in? Do you believe in any type of religion, or you know, or like what is up with you?
All the religions are control
Telling the
mechanisms.
same story?
I agree with you when they're not telling the exact same story. There's actually telling different parts of the story. But yes, they are telling the same like greater story, but they're also telling a very controlled version of it, and they're leaving very little room for uh, the actual power that humans have, which is to exercise ego and will and discernment. Because the thing is, and a lot of people actually in our community agree with this, that morality is like written within us. And I agree with that. I agree that
Right.
um, we generally have a preference for life, for truth. Um,
Well, that
and
separates us from the animals, right?
well,
Do they have
actually,
morals?
so would you think
They
that?
lick their crotch right in front of us.
Hold on, that is a cleanliness issue, right? That's a
Well,
different issue.
we
So
how do
what?
we take it?
So what you okay? So
What if
we all
okay, so
prefer.
you're gonna clean your balls in front of me?
No, so let me clarify the position, right?
Like a dog would eat your dead body.
Do
You
you
know,
think a
like
dog
your
doesn't?
dog loves you so much. There's dogs that would eat their owner's dead body when they die.
Yeah, but do you think a dog doesn't value its own life?
It doesn't mean it doesn't have morals.
Right, it has different set of morals in a way, but it has the and actually I have to agree with you on a certain level for sure. But I think that they have the morality of selfishness. It is a completely selfish morality.
Well, I just maybe that's not maybe selfishness has nothing to do with morality though. Maybe that's just part of their
Maybe I'm using the wrong word.
yeah.
I might be using the wrong
I
word.
don't know.
But I
But
agree that
back
animals and humans act different.
so I mean, okay, so you don't believe any of the religions got it right, but you still believe that there's an afterlife?
Yeah, Yeah, I do, and that's because of my personal experience of existing outside of my body.
Okay.
That's why I
And
preach it so hard.
the lucid dreaming.
Lucid dreaming is a stairway to be able to do that.
Okay.
So I preach lucid dreaming because it teaches you the mechanics. And then once you get a grasp of the mechanics, then you can astral project. And which is a little bit more difficult, but basically the same thing, just a higher level. And once you're able to do that, it is my hope, my belief, right? Because I don't have the actual experimental evidence of it. I would like to get to a level where I could start doing some experiments, but I'd like to believe that if we have mastery over our spirit body when our regular body passes away, that we won't just dissipate into source. And that's why that answers the question of like, where are all the souls, like the dead bodies, right? I don't think that everybody just reincarnates. I think that it's actually what you refer to as a hell, because right now Earth is hell, is actually just the gift of life, right? And we get the gift of continuous experience if we want it. But we don't have to have it. We could just relax, not practice our spirit body, let everything atrophy, and then fade out into the different pieces of what makes the spirit, which would
Okay.
effectively be suicide. And I think that a lot of religions teach suicide in that regard because they teach you that reincarnation is the trap, right? When you hear about reincarnation and you hear about the religions talking about this, they tell you what reincarnation is the trap, and rejoining with source is the goal. It's heaven, right? And maybe it's blissful at the moment, but you're hitting the reset on your memory card. And how can you build anything lasting if you're just hitting reset, right?
Right. How's it a test if you're hitting reset?
Exactly.
This, you your life experience is the studying for the test, and then you go back to source to take the test, and they mind wipe your ass.
Bingo.
Oh,
That is literally
man, that
exactly what
sounds
I
like a
think.
nightmare.
Yeah. And that's why
But
nobody can
see,
build shit.
okay, so but when you say that this place is a hell, you don't mean like evil hell.
No, it's just it's a hell of our design. Allowed it to get to this point. And granted, there is it's been orchestrated, right? I don't want to lead the audience astray and say that it's not been orchestrated, because it actually has. But we have allowed it to continuously be orchestrated when it has been obvious to us, from the start. Like, yeah, they're trying to deceive us, but the spirit of truth is like a fire; it can't be hidden. The thing that the Bible did have right is that everything that is done in darkness does eventually come to light, I believe. So, man, I have to say I believe, because everything that's still hidden, you don't know, right?
Yeah, right. No, but these are healthy conversations. These are conversations we should have instead of just both being toxic and being like, no, my side's right, your side's not right, blah, blah, blah. This is way healthier, more constructive.
I,
Um,
I agree.
your wife's on fire though in the chats.
Yeah,
She
she
said
tears it
nature
up.
doesn't operate in love, it operates in survival. Right. So does that separate us?
Yep.
Um, there's another one. Boo Ranch. I like Boo Ranch comments. I've been seeing them Boo Ranch chatting over on the Melodome. Hell used to mean cover, and it wasn't what people think now.
Right. He's referring to Sheol, and hell
Right.
as being the fiery burning pit is not biblical. That's taken out of context from Revelation, when it said that they will be cast into a lake of burning fire. That's just the end. That's just at judgment, and that's after they've been dashed apart, or split in half by God, by the loving God. Everybody who didn't believe and bow and do as Israel, the behaviors of Israel, or the behaviors of trueness or correctness, apparently, have broken the covenant, and will be dashed apart like the potter's vessel, and then tossed into this lake of fire where the smoke will rise forever. So they take this to mean that, oh, there's a burning lake of fire in hell, and we burn in that forever, living, burning forever and ever. But that's not the case. It's actually you're just destroyed at judgment. But before that, you're in Sheol, which is the grave, which is the covering of the dirt. We put you in the earth, and you sleep there, which is just you're unaware until the day of judgment. So the Christian belief or the messianic belief would be that all the ghost stories and like all the people's ancestors that have like stayed like been ghosts for a little bit and communicated, that those are all tricks of an evil spirit, which could be possible.
What is the point of this place? That's just my next thought, because and I just don't get it, because all of these stories are still coming from those same religions, right? Like all these ideas of an afterlife and everything, like even your idea of an afterlife is also from most of these religions, is it not?
It is definitely influenced for sure. I just take a different spin on it. But I agree. What if it's something completely different, not told to us at all? Um, and
I know.
that is kind of what the occultists like some of the stuff that they believe before it all came out. But the other thing is like again, everything comes out. So we can't say that just because it's known that means that it can't be true, right?
Right. I agree. But it's just, to me, it I feel I torture myself thinking about, is there a next life? And then it's a lot of wasted energy when I can just be focusing on this life. Unless it's like great conversations like this, but I can, haunt myself because of people I've lost. I mean, I know there's people in the chat who can resonate with this. We've all lost people, and where do those people go? Where what is the meaning to all this? To just come here, pay bills, and die? you know um
You remember what we talked about when when we were talking about if we were created in God's image, and there was I know it's a lot of what ifs, right? But if there was like any truth to the father and children relationship, right? That it would
oh,
be
bro, that hit so hard. Yes, please get into that.
it would be perfectly reasonable, in my opinion, and when you lay this out, I think it makes sense that when you have a child, the thing that you want for your child is to become competent, more competent than yourself. I don't know any parent that stops at themselves, right? That's like, I want my child to be as good as me, right? Like that's narcissistic. You must think you're the best ever. Um, what I would want is my child to be much better than I could be, to be able
Yeah.
to realize all the things that I could not realize and more. Things that I couldn't even conceptualize. I don't even know where that journey could go, but that's my hope,
Dude,
right,
right, that gives me joy, so much joy, just thinking about that.
bro?
Like that is the ultimate goal for me, so why wouldn't that be for our creator? But no, 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 don't compare yourself to the creator. No, 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 don't do that. Don't do that.
It's
he's
wicked.
gonna he's gonna be mad at you.
the fact that we
It's crazy.
the fact that we have these thoughts, right? It comes from it. You can say, "Oh, that's just survival instincts," right? We just want the kids to be more competent so that they can survive better, right? And it's like, well, maybe, but again, we don't really know that. And I would think that even in a perfectly comfortable situation, right? We have people at rich families and stuff who don't want for anything, and I bet they still want their children to be more competent and to exactly like we just talked about, go on the
Okay,
new
but it
adventure.
kind of falls apart though, because I'm not throwing my kids in some ant farm and then completely not connecting to them because I'm giving them free will. They got to figure it out all on their own. I'm putting them in a room with a shitty diaper and locking the door,
Ugh.
and they can't find me, right? They can talk about, we heard there was a dad. There might be a dad. There might be one. We can argue with each other about there being dad in our shitty diapers, that's not what an all loving dad would do to you. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, what if it was something a little bit more sinister than that? What if you did have a connection and you were in contact with this entity,
Mm,
and it was trying to help you, guide you through life, but through the, for lack of a better word, the fuckery that has been implemented um,
yes.
by the
Yes.
evil opposite of this, or the, I won't say the a complete opposite, right? Because there can't be. I don't think there can be a complete opposite of an all powerful creator that everything exists within.
Well, maybe that's what the fuckers of the fuckery are trying to be.
Right. Well, exactly. That's what
But
all they could be, though, is just a smaller, a maybe slightly smaller in degree, but still very powerful evil entity, right? Causing all kinds of mayhem, all kinds of
so
fuckery.
you're saying because of the controllers, let's say because of the juice agenda they put in the children and put all of us when we were children, and this whole matrix system, and taking us out of the cycle of nature, and just this whole system taking us out of this beautiful system constructed for us and putting us in this matrix system, quantifying us, telling us we only got five senses, telling us we're only using half of our brain, and slapping all this other stuff.
10%.
Okay, I vibe with that 100%. I definitely feel like there probably was a time where we had a way more spiritual connection to the creator and to source, and and I think going back to nature and really simplifying life more can get us back to that. But yeah, I definitely vibe with that big time, brother. Like that's why, I'm trying to manifest this land in the next few years. I'm gonna, we're gonna. That's what I want to get back to. I had that when I was a child. I want that again, like a farm and all that stuff. But yeah, I vibe with that. There was a time where we did have that connection and it got severed, and probably just by human nature, because people are greedy. You know,
It is
a lot of
possible.
people fall for that.
It is. It
The
is
ego
very,
kills.
very possible that people have fallen into their more base emotions, the things that are more animalistic, that keeps them separated from that, higher mind. Um, but there's also, and I'm trying for the life of me to remember the name of the doctor, but there was an actual doctor who had said, and man, probably gonna get hit on YouTube, but whatever, gonna say it because the truth is more
Careful.
important, right? I don't care, right? There's some things that just have to be said, and it was that the juice, right? That's what we're calling it now, is the juice. Um,
Yeah,
and not the and not
it's working
necessarily
for now.
not necessarily the most recent version, but like all of them, that they have something in them that disconnects you from God. So, and that's like the first thing that they hit you with right out of the womb. The reason why I think that this is, if you want to get to a scientific level, is because there's metals, and what we're seeing by and large seems to be like vast or mass metal poisoning, or metal, over metal toxicity. And this can be detoxed out, which typically happens after people start like taking better care of themselves and like eating better, and then they start detoxing some of this stuff, and then it's almost like you start getting some messages again. It's really weird.
Yeah. Dr. Law, shout out to Dr. Law. He says, I think near death experiences have been taught to us as soon as we were able to comprehend. I would be interested to hear about near death experiences from children who have never heard or been told about those stories.
Absolutely, there are ways that we can test some of this stuff, and that's a part of the reason that I opened this platform, is that in this dialogue we could start isolating some of the crux issues of the philosophies, and then we can actually develop ways to test them out. And obviously the best way to do that would be to try to develop ways to falsify the claims somehow. which seems
You
ridiculously daunting, but possible.
There's this movie, man, I forgot what it was called, but these people were trying to figure out the afterlife, and they were like cheating death, doing like near death experiences, like trying to like they were trying to kill him, not trying to kill themselves, but they were getting to the point to where they'd be like in limbo for a few minutes and then they come back, but they brought back something. But you just like, because you're saying we would test it. So how would we test it? How would we test these things? Because I've heard these stories and these stories are amazing. I would love to hear and find out that these stories are true, because a huge part of me thinks that it could just be a DMT trip and we're just going for a ride on the DMT train, you know?
Even if it was a DMT trip, right? The fact that everybody's having a similar experience, a similar hallucination, then we can start asking, what is the hallucination really? Oh, we just got a long chat there.
Mm.
Let me see if I can read that. 1 second. Have it pulled up on the phone. Oh, wait, I don't even need to do that because I don't have the screen shared on. Nice. All right. Oh, man, it's an ad. Hold on, I'm gonna delete that shit. Nice, dude. Love it. Shout out to the lovely people in the chat. We got TJ, Trusty, Shifty Eyes, Shady, Donald, Piaskic, Flatliners. That is what it was called, actually. I believe the Flatliners.
Flatliners. Flatliners, yeah. I think they remade it.
Absolutely.
Probably a terrible remake though.
Most remakes are, but what are you gonna do, right? Where our talent is
Yeah.
degrading over time.
Sad. No one has creativity or imagination anymore. They just gotta manipulate and mimic and recreate.
Yeah, and it's like
They
it's
should,
every you know how a copy machine works, how it's always the copy of the copy is always worse. And
oh
just
yeah.
gets worse every time. And that's what it ends up being. And I think that's done very deliberately because they don't want us practicing anything even remotely close to manifestation. And I think they're kind of ticked that, manifestation in general is still being talked about by and large because it's just you can't stop it. It's so obvious. But you can only, control it, try to steer it.
Right.
Nice. We got 34 viewers and 27 likes. Let's go ahead and get a few more likes on there.
Yeah, thumbs up, man.
You probably just forgot, but it's the least that you could do for mankind.
True that. Yeah, nothing new under the sun. I don't know. I'm just trying to sit here and think about, afterlife, fate, the true fate debate. I mean, me and Chris just got into it on the stream earlier.
Yeah, I was
Over
hearing that. I was like, you guys are blowing your load.
yeah. Yeah, way too early. Saving it for this show for sure.
Super fun. No,
But yeah, I like those kind of conversations though, and I like, um, there still is nothing that I've heard that makes me think reincarnation is something beautiful, and whether it's heaven or hell, it does not sound like a good time to me. Like, heaven, oh yeah, it sounds so fun, to go do the same thing for eternity. Like, and then I'm not even me, but then I am me, and
so
it.
let me ask you the
Go
tough
ahead.
question then, because you've said a lot about what you don't like and what you don't vibe with on it. When it comes to what to expect of the afterlife, what is something that you could vibe with?
Okay, so, and I've been thinking about this. I think that I don't know. I nothing that I've heard. What I do vibe with, I don't know if I agree with it or it to be true, but it's hard for me to explain because I really think it's beyond any human comprehension. But I don't think that there's this bipedal figure there. It's more energy, um, not loving or evil, just energy. That's what we are at the base of everything. We're emitting these frequencies. We're vibration. We're vibrating to a certain state to form in this physical matter. And, you know, energy transmutates. It doesn't go away, right? So when my body dies, that spark that keeps me a human with a soul, that electrical current, I need electricity for my heart to beat, in order for my brain to think, in order for my eyes to see. So when that spark is gone, it's transmutated into something else. Now, maybe depending on what I do with this body, I don't know. Maybe that energy completely leaves the body and it goes to the earth. Maybe I get buried and I can help a tree grow, or and then be a part, or maybe I don't know.
The final
But
grounding.
yeah, but to me, I don't see myself living this whole other life somewhere else and still have the possibility of knowing my previous lives. Or I mean, I don't know, maybe I need to astral project, but I've been on meth benders. I've definitely hallucinated. I've seen things. I've tripped balls, if you will, and I've seen what you could call the spiritual side, but how much of it is an actual other side and not just us tripping balls.
Right.
I mean, our minds are very powerful. We don't really understand much of it. We don't even understand what's happening with a deja vu, and people have many different opinions on it.
Well, my follow up would be, so starting from things that we do know, right? So we do know that out of body experiences happen, right? Or are
I've had one.
okay, perfect. So we agree then that out of body experiences happen, but the thing that it would be in question is, does that continue after you die, or is that
Right,
proof of a soul?
right.
So
And go ahead.
what would be the alternative if it's not a soul or something like that that would
Well, the
possibly be able to
alternative for
continue?
me, and I've said this before, but the alternative is that there is nothing after this. And that, you know, that's just how special this life is that this is it. And you got to make the most of it. And to me, I mean, this is me. Other people probably won't resonate with this, but me losing people in my life in a certain way, yeah, it was hard for me to deal with. And then it led to questions of this afterlife and this other place. And are they still these people? And will we see them again? And all these things, right? I had to really put all that aside because I couldn't really grasp on it. Anything anybody was telling me. And most of it leads back to a lot of these religions that I don't find a lot of, I don't want to say truth, but I think it's more of a control mechanism. So to me, I decided like there could very well be nothing after this. And even if there was, most people were trying to tell me that Austin won't be there because my ego dies or something like that. And so I've come to terms with the idea that there very well could be nothing after this. And so I'm not dwelling in the past of losing people. I'm not tripping in the future of trying to like go out the way they did, not trying to relive their mistakes. So I need to focus on the present, make this life the best life possible, because I've created a living hell all on my own, being addicted to uh, crap. Okay. And now I'm literally creating a heaven on earth for me and my family and my wife and my children. I'm making the most of it I can right now, and I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's a way better life than what I had a few years ago. And I think a lot of people, like even Christians, they like beg for the end to come. Like, I can't wait for the end, like bring it on, bring me into the next life. I'm ready to get out of here. Like it's some shit place when it's really what you make of it. And I just can't, I don't know. I don't see my parents and like siblings and things like that somewhere else, living a different life, or living in a different name, or in a different body, or worshiping something. I just don't see that. It could be very well we are borrowing this energy and we're using these bodies with that energy. And there comes a times when we have to really just give that energy back. We don't get to keep it, and that's what is perpetual, the energy, not necessarily these physical vessels. And then that we give them a name, and then everything they've experienced will, be a part of them, but then that physical dies. Well, then, Austin doesn't go with that energy. Austin died.
If Notch, welcome to the show, man. Thanks for coming on. A little ill time.
What's up, buddy?
He might still be connecting. I'm actually going to send another link here. This is about to end in like 2 minutes, so I'm just going to get the jump on it and end it myself and send out a new link. And yeah, if y'all will hop back on.
Okay,
we can...
Nominal says if there's nothing after this, then nothing matters. That's not true.
That's not true.
I can say that for the other thing. If there's a whole nother life after this, then this life doesn't matter. When people say that your death is actually your birth, then we can it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because you got a whole eternal life after this. And you get to go back home to your loved ones. So I can say that. You understand? I can say that the other way around. Not trying to like be mean.
It's true.
And when I say nothing, I mean nothing as in Austin Thompson, who climbed out of fucking trenches, changed his life with his wife, raising beautiful children, trying to make it. That person will not be going into the next life because I'm in physical form. Austin's never been in God mode.
Well, I will just say that before I send out the new link, that I think that what you have in common with all the other religions that you may not realize is that you end. All the religions are teaching that in some way or another, in a roundabout way, right? You can fluff it up by saying, oh, your energy continues, but, like you said, you're not really you. You rejoin with source, you become, something else, or you just cease to exist altogether. Either way, the memory card is done. I don't know what religion is actually teaching, except for, I will say, Mormonism. Pretty funny. Mormonism is like one of the only religions that I've ever seen actually teaching that exactly what I am starting to believe, that God expects us to become godly. So it just takes time, and it takes a lot of learning. So that's my 2 cents. You guys sit tight. I'm going to post a new link, pin it to the top, and Notch, I'll give you the floor. I appreciate you guys.
Yeah, I'm just joining in, and thanks for having me. I
He didn't understand. It's all good. Sending another link now. You guys just sit tight. A whole second will go by. And by the time that 1 whole second goes by, I will have repeated myself enough times to put this back in the YouTube for you and get it pinned to the top, like so. So there you go. I will see you shortly. What an awesome conversation. Huge shout out to these legends. I warned you guys. All right. But we're going to get it, and I'm going to give you the floor.
sorry about that.
All good, my friend.
I didn't understand.
All right. Welcome back to the True Fate debate. Notch, you were just in the middle of saying something riveting, I'm sure.
Oh, no, not really. I think this whole question about, life and reality, and, everybody's on the same path in terms of like striving towards the truth. But it's pretty topsy-turvy, this question about, reincarnation and why are we here and what will be, after death. I mean, these are These are very speculative things. We only have evidence of some other people's experiences, and maybe we have some experiences of our own. I've had a near-death experience myself, but I can't say that that's going to be the way it's going to be, like when I pass away, like, completely in this, the next time around. It might have been a one-off in that particular time. Do you guys understand what I mean?
Oh yeah, I do.
I'm sorry, I was blocking a scammer that keeps flooding my chat over on Rockfin, so I actually missed what you had said. I apologize.
It's okay. It's yeah. I mean, I don't want to interrupt anybody, but like it's a conversation that I'm very much interested in. Like this idea about, like, reincarnation and life after death, and what that could be like. And what I think it really comes down to how we identify ourselves. Like right now, you have a form, right? You have a body, and then you have this memory of from being born and educated, and your family and all this. So all the circumstances and such creates your identity as you know it now, right? So you're identified. But if you have had an experience like an outer body experience, or like a near death experience, you are less like identified with the body, because you're outside of that body, right? So what is it that is about you that you still consider that is you, that is able to move around or have an experience that is outside of the physicality? And this is my belief. I'm not trying to put any doctrine in anybody else's mind, but I also believe that everything is made of energy, and I also believe that consciousness plays a big role. In fact, everything is consciousness. Everything is consciousness. I think ultimately science is going to come to that point where nothing is outside of consciousness, and maybe consciousness is equal to God, and maybe this is an idea of pantheism. And a lot of people have maybe some issues with that, because with pantheism, you're also saying that you're a part of God, and how dare you
Not
as well,
it would actually pantheism is one way to put it, but I had actually referred to it as animism. It's like the first religion that the indigenous people, that as far back as we can remember, before it even had a name, this is what they believed.
Right. I mean, like it's really dependent on how you want to define it. Like, okay, you can call it animism, you can call it pantheism, you can call it whatever you want, but the idea is that nothing is separate from God. That's kind of what it comes down to. Like, God is not separate from anything. Even if you take the worst individual in the world, even if you take the devil, and this is where Advaita philosophy starts to come in. This is the ancient Indian philosophy of non-duality. They don't call it singularism; they call it non-duality. Whatever it is non-dual. But to say it's a one thing is also kind of wrong. Do you guys kind of understand the distinction between those two ideas?
Dang it, you keep catching me in the chat, man.
No, can you explain them though?
Yeah, yeah, I'll do my best, because I'm not entirely like an expert, quote unquote, but like I'll explain it as far as I can understand it. So non-dual is that, like, the idea of Hermeticism is that there is duality. Would you guys agree with that?
Right.
There's
Yeah,
polarization,
absolutely.
gender, there's like hot and cold, black and white. This is all like based on duality.
Right, but
Yes.
Hermeticism also
The
says
yin
that
and the
that's all
yang.
part of the same thing. So it's
Yeah.
nuanced.
So that's the idea of the physical reality. Physical reality is dualistic in the sense that there's the subject and the object, all the hermetic principles, et cetera, et cetera. You can extrapolate it down to like time and on space as well, that they are like kind of opposite ends of the same coin. It's duality. Okay. Like time and space would not exist on its own. They both are required of each other to exist. Okay.
Well, yeah, because
Now,
movement.
non-duality.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I mean, that makes sense because space just being like, the absence of stuff. But I mean, well, everything it has stuff, right? So I mean, I guess just an area. Space is an area, and time would be the forward progression of action. So I actually disagree a little bit. I think that time would not exist without action, without movement.
So how do we? Okay, this is good. So how do we determine time? Okay, normally we divide things out. Like for example, like one rotation of the sun is like 24 hours. And then we divide 24 hours into 60
That's based
minutes and
on.
60 seconds, etc.
But if there
Right?
was no movement of the sun, right, how would you do it?
Yeah.
So
So
it's
if
based
there's
on
no
movement.
movement, so if there's no comparison essentially from one moment to another, you would not have time. If everything was frozen still, right? And then would time be continuously going? How would you know? You wouldn't know if everything is frozen completely.
Right. So that's why I say really doesn't have anything to do with space. It has something to do with movement. So time and movement are interval, and we have this idea that time and space are connected because of Einstein mechanics.
Well, how do you get movement without space, though?
I guess you need space to move in.
Yeah, I mean that's the question. Like, how do you get movement like from one location to another? That's a movement, right?
Right. Yeah, I guess you need
Then
space to move in. So yeah, I mean, you're right. It does take all three of those things.
it's kind of taken away from the initial conversation about duality because like it was just an example that was being used that there's a kind of intrinsic like codependent nature of all dualistic things. That's kind of the main point, that they are coexistent. They exist with each other. They can only exist with each other. That's the idea of duality. Would you guys like agree with that idea or disagree with that idea?
I'm vibing with it.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah. So like the non-duality is like the philosophy of non-duality, which is Advaita, is basically saying that everything comes like into more or less like these words get lost in the nuance of things, but what it comes down to is that everything gets lost into the nothingness or the abyss or the singularity of things. But even there is no word for it because in Taoism they say if you can, it has no form, it has no name. That's what they say. It has no name, and then, so anytime you try to put a name on it, that is already putting it into existence. But whatever that is like beyond this existence. Thus, it is non-dual. It is beyond both good and evil. Let's say it's beyond all that. Whatever that might be.
Right. I vibe with that.
Yeah, me too. I like that.
Okay. So, okay, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Continue. I wanted to
Yeah,
hear.
but what?
Well, I was just gonna go back to what does that have to do with, you know, afterlife and things like that.
Yeah, I mean that's a good question. Like, what does it have to do with the afterlife and all that stuff? So, um, right now, for example, like you still have we agree that we exist, or do we not agree that we exist? Let's start with that one, because these are
Yeah.
these are philosophical questions, and we are going into the speculative territory of things, but it needs to be based on logic and reason and our agreement to certain words have meaning kind of deal.
Right. Yeah, I think this is real. I think I'm existing and I'm not in a simulation. It's very real.
Well, that's a different question. But like, because like, for example, like if you say that you exist, right? What does that mean? Like, when you ask the questions like, oh, I believe that I exist. Okay, good. This table in front of me feels real. This tea that I'm drinking feels real. So, like, it is, would you say that like making that statement that quote unquote I exist, does it have anything to do with experience, or has like little to do with experience, or nothing to do with experience?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I guess so. Experience, I would think. I mean, because I'm sitting here experiencing things right now,
I think it's
so I'm
awareness.
considering myself as existing.
I think
Uh,
existence is awareness because you can be having experiences and
well, I think I'm very aware. I live in my head all the time. I mean, what do you mean? I
right,
think I'm aware.
right.
You know?
As soon as you're not aware, you're effectively, I mean, you're effectively dead.
Well,
Am I
people can
wrong?
be
Mhm.
unaware. They can be in a trance. They can be watching TV and be completely unaware.
Yeah, in the physical, I guess temporarily, but we're still aware of them, right? But the moment that, well, now we're going in circles. Yeah, that's a dumb thought. Gonna have to shelf that one.
No, I mean this is fine. Like because like you go down into lines and then you realize, oh, this is a dead end, so you have to backtrack a little bit. So it's great.
Yeah.
It's great because like
Yeah.
it is kind of like the same. It's like it's the same. This idea of questioning. Just you question, and then is it you hone in on what is it that you really genuinely think that you believe, not just because you blurted it out or you heard it somewhere or you read it in a scripture, but what does it come down to, really, essentially, about what you mean when you say, I exist. I, Nachiketa, exist in this reality, and I believe that I am having an interaction with Troubling Tribune and Melodome Austin, and you guys are existing. You guys are, do I genuinely believe that you guys are a figment of my imagination, some simulation, and that, this is some clever ploy of the Matrix to make me think that I'm interacting with something that doesn't exist at all?
Right. Right.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Nominal in the chat says, "We exist. Why though?" Is the ultimate question. And I tend to ask myself that a lot. Why? Why? What is the point of all this?
I like how
What
Notch could
what is this place?
I don't mean this as an insult at all, but I like how Notch how he addressed the question of how we didn't even get into the question yet because we couldn't even define the terms.
Exactly.
How can we talk about this if we can't even define the freaking terms?
Right.
That's
It's
awesome.
a fundamental thing. I mean, like that's where people start to go sideways a lot in a lot of these type of very metaphysical type of conversations, is that they both have an assumption, of something, like for example, God or
Right.
consciousness or reincarnation or whatever, and then they start to have a conversation with each other, yet they're slight it's like as if they're like just slightly off from each other, and they seem to be in a conversation as if they are in understanding of each other. And those who may be like very sensitive to this, like the maybe the nuance, they see that people are having two different conversations essentially. So this is something that we are trying to avoid, because the idea of having a conversation is to get people on the same page of things, right? Get people to a similar understanding of it. Not to say that one person is right or wrong, but at least you have to start from the baseline, a foundational point.
What if this all goes back to that scripture that says that when two people agree on a thing, then that thing shall be done? What if it's not one person's awareness that creates an existence, but two or more? And that's the because everything's dualistic, and
Well,
that's the
yeah,
thing that we're missing.
yeah. You don't exist without the other. That's the point.
Right. I agree with that.
The other's help is here to help you to realize more about yourself and the world. I mean, this is the way it's working.
No,
It is like you are born in.
I hate to cut you
Go
off,
ahead.
but I just had another thought of why that doesn't work now too. Man, this conversation's awesome. So that doesn't work because of the super basic question of if a tree falls in the forest and nobody hears it, does it still make a sound? Well, I take it back to if a tree falls in the forest and no one's aware or there to be aware of it, did it fall in the forest? You know,
Yeah.
that's basically it. And if it's only existing by awareness, then that doesn't work because obviously the answer is yes, it did fall, regardless of who was aware of it. So,
True. These are called koans, like what does the sound make, when a one hand claps or something like this, like I mean, you can go into this literal aspect of it, or you can get into kind of like the philosophical aspect of these koans, Koans. These are like Japanese Zen meditation things to kind of put your attention in to see more of an insight of the nature of reality. So, like this question about, okay, let's address something like this question about why we exist, right? This is a big question, okay? That can only come from understanding that we exist in the first place. So we agree that we exist. Okay, let's assume we move on. Okay, we exist. Okay, we believe that we're real, and we believe that other people are real as well, and blah blah blah. And this whole reality actually exists. And so eventually you get to that question about, wow, like why am I here? Now, how can one come to understand why one can be here, or why one is here?
that's the question.
Yeah, what are the questions to be asked about that? I guess that's like how can one go about understanding that? Is there anything that come to mind?
Well, you could do the classic old school brainwashed religion way and just pray on it.
Okay. I mean, that's fine. And so praying is like if you go in that route, I would say that is about contemplation. You contemplate, right? You think about like, why you exist. So the nature of that would also, like, for example, if you use the Christian route, then you have already some preconditions as to why you're a Christian. For an example, you believe that God exists, right? And then so there is a kind of a creator, right, who created this all whole of the world in that logic, like based on what you have that example that was used. So you believe there's a creator, and creator created all reality. In fact, logically speaking, you have to come down to the point that creator actually created all demons and all devils and all the circumstances that are happening now as well. Or would you not agree with that?
I do agree with that. Yeah, God is all things good and evil.
Austin, what about you? What do you think?
Um, yeah, sure. It's not. I mean, yeah. Or it's just not God and it's just human nature. But yeah, I mean, I'll go along with it. I do lean that way, that all of it is God, or it's
Okay,
just
I mean,
man-made
look,
constructs.
I'm not here to convince anybody of anything. That's not my position. I'm here to address some of these questions, like based on like my limited faculty of like, hey, let's dive into it a little bit. So you say, oh, let's go along with it. I'm not trying to make you go along with anything. So if you genuinely believe this is the nature of a human being, what is that nature of a human being?
I can only go off of my experience. So my answer is going to be based off what I've been experiencing. So it's going to be I guess, a bias compared to what other people will believe. But for me, I mean, the nature of humans, like what the purpose is, why we are here. I don't know, but I tend to think that it's servicing others. Create, like what you were just saying. You're saying that it needs to be two people, two or more for this interaction. It's almost like I was thinking that is it. That was it. That's why we're here, to interact with each other and to learn from each other and to, help each other.
One
You
thing
know,
that can be said that is profoundly true about every single person that has ever existed, ever, and will ever exist, is that two people had to come together for that to happen.
right.
So far as we know, yeah. I mean, like that, there could be an anomalous event at the very beginning where it was just one person who knows. But since then on, like with all the examples that we know of, in the known history of mankind, that two people, a male and a female, had to come together. Not a male and a male, not a female and a female. A male and a female had to come
No
together in
way.
order to create.
That's hate speech. That's not this debate. You take that shit, that
Uh,
hateful rhetoric somewhere else.
I do apologize. I do apologize. I'm not here to
I'm just
whatever.
kidding.
But like,
Go ahead, man.
look. I mean, it's very it's an interesting question because the nature of these questions, like the nature in the way in which you look at things, really does change the quality of the way you have an outlook of this reality, in my opinion. Okay, in my opinion. So, like, the human nature aspect, like, I wasn't trying to corner you, but like, just to go deeper into that human nature, and then you come to the point of like serving each other. Like we are supposed to serve one another, and we have had great examples of people who have come and they have served mankind. Okay, and that's
Right.
great. You know, However, but that's not entirely true about humans,
No,
right?
it's not. Not at all. Right.
No, humans are. If you actually go down to the average understanding of a human nature, people will say human nature is selfish,
Just like the
or
animal
maybe
Yeah.
kingdom.
not. Maybe you won't agree.
Well, they're all in survival mode.
That's right. A lot of people are in the survival mode, and I mean, this is kind of detracting us from that conversation of the bigger conversation, but it is very important because this is something very fundamental to who we are. We want to survive. I don't know of very many people. Of course, there are people, there are exceptions of people who want to, die because they feel like life is meaningless and all this kind of stuff, right? But for the most part, for people who have purpose, they want to continue on. They want to survive, and they want to know how they can continue to survive, right? And that's like kind of inbuilt in nature, like this basic survival instinct of animals, right, and also of humans. And this is kind of getting into like, how do humans survive? Well, humans survive with money, for the most part. So then you get into the category of like, well, what is the right way and wrong way to obtain money? So these are the things that are like kind of interrelated to survival. Do you guys follow that? I mean, does that
Yeah.
make sense or no?
Yeah, absolutely. Ultimately, it's all coming down to selfish intentions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's the thing. And when we are not like like this is, again, just take everything I say with a grain of salt. I'm not here to make everybody agree with me about anything, whatever. But like when you start to accept the fact that the fundamental nature of a human being is selfish, like there is a selfish aspect. Like I don't know of anybody that I have met in my life who is absolutely altruistic. Now, people have used altruism, and there could be genuinely people who are altruistic. It's just that I haven't really met them in person or known about them like in depth. And like I would like to say, like I feel like I'm very giving. I have met very giving people, but there are people who, you know, use that as an example to actually create an image rather than it is what they actually are. Like, you guys understand what I mean here?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so we have like some kind of quote unquote judgment in regards to like
Mm-hmm.
how people behave, and we do, and you can't lie about that. You just can't.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's interesting that when we start talking about this subject and you get down to this is something that I haven't talked about too much because people I haven't felt were super duper ready for the everybody really is selfish conversation. Like when you hold the door open for the old lady, you're doing it because it makes you feel good, right? I mean, yes, you're helping the old lady, but that makes you
Yeah.
feel good. So that's why you're holding the door open. There's no way around it. Being good to others feels good. So it is ultimately a selfish endeavor. And how this came about, can be debated all day long. But I tend to think that that
Yep.
matters less, than the actual fact, the observation of that does exist. And I just think it's interesting because this is the philosophy of basically of Satanism, that selfish, that humans are all selfish, and that we owe
Yep.
it to our fellow man to be selfish to actually be able to truly love. That's actually a real quote from the head of the Church of Satanism, right? Which
Yeah.
although they did do some pretty weird stuff, like I said, you take the good, you leave the bad, and you develop a worldview. So I think that a lot of
Yeah.
stuff gets demonized like that, like the idea that selfishness is always can it. Yeah, sorry, I'm getting it all mixed up. The idea that selfishness is always a bad thing is ridiculous. That is very useful.
Right. Yeah, and coming to the balance of that, because like what it comes down to is that you exist. Okay, we agree, we exist. And then others exist. Okay, we agree, others exist. But doing action, right, that is only good for you, everybody says, no, that's selfish. That's only good for you. You could have done something that's good for everybody, including yourself. That would be the best action. That would be the best action. People talk about the golden rule in the chat, and we all understand the golden rule is a good thing, right? Because treat others as if just the same as you want to be treated. Very easy to understand, hard to practice. Most people don't, right? Because that selfish nature starts to creep in, and that selfish nature starts to create reasons as to why you need to take more and give less to others. Why you need to hoard something and whatever, because like but in the sense of like taking advantage of others, like if it doesn't affect other people, it doesn't matter then, right? If it has no effect on other people, then whatever action that you do is like hitting a rock. I'm angry, I'm going to go and hit a rock. Okay, you're angry and then you're expressing your anger and you're hitting a rock. What damage are you doing? Nothing. I mean, okay, whatever, but like if you go and do that to a person or a dog or whatever, people are going to have issues. Why? Because like that's how that selfishness is being expressed. Like you want something, which is expressing your anger, and you're willing to hurt other people to express that anger, right?
Right. That's not okay. Everybody check
Yeah,
yourself.
that's that is not okay. That is not okay. And everybody agrees that's not okay, because like what did that other person do to deserve that? Nothing. Right. So it is completely a selfish act. So there's this idea, okay? You can be selfish and you can be altruistic. And there are people who are so empathetic, they are so giving and giving, and they will find somebody who is willing to take everything they got. Like, if you give them a
Hmm.
finger, they'll take a whole arm. There are people
Right.
like that out there. Now, is it the fault of the person who is being offered the arm to take it? No, you offer the arm and say, okay, I'll take it. If you're offering an arm, I'll take it. Right? So whose fault is it? Is it the fault? And then later on, you give your arm, and then you're like, wait a minute, I kind of need that arm. I kind of like that arm. I can't get it back because I gave my arm. Whose fault is that?
Yeah. It's true. And there are a lot of
The
people
one
out
without
there.
the arm, the one-armed man.
Yeah. There's people out there giving both
Yeah.
arms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a leg.
Like your whole life. Your whole life. Okay, you want my life? Take my life. Like consume me. Now that cannibalism is a fad now. And then he's like, okay, consume me. I don't care about this body. I don't care. Okay, and there are people more than willing to take you. Trust me, there are more. There are people out there who are more than willing to take you. Right. So what is noble? What is noble is fine to me, from what I have understood, is what is noble is finding that balance. The balance of like giving what you can give, but preserving what you value for
Hmm.
yourself. You say that's selfishness, but that will be what I would consider being noble. Like that's being true to yourself. And also, giving what you can give. Some people can give more. There are billionaires in the world who could give a lot, but they don't. They just create more and more billions upon themselves, and then we judge like these, freaking elites, they're doing their thing, and then they could totally help out the world if they really wanted to. Yet it's not happening. And there are people who have nothing and they give every little penny to, like a drug dealer out there though too. And they're like, oh, I'm helping a homeless person. And then, I know this money will buy them some time or whatever. But then, at the end of the day, they're going to just buy alcohol with it. Was it a noble act to give them money, the last of your money that you needed for yourself and your family, to provide alcohol for or drugs for somebody else?
Even Jesus said, "Don't cast your pearls before swine." So totally agree in finding the balance, and that also comes with knowing your self worth, which comes, I think, from realizing the service that you have to offer. I think when you don't have a service to offer, it bleeds out into basically it causes people to act out. So I think that we're social creatures. We need to be needed. We need to develop skills that are desirable.
Hmm.
Okay, so this is another direction of conversation. So like my father was an economic professor. I had to learn a
Just
little bit about the economy and stuff
before
like
we
this.
go,
And basically,
six
I'm
minutes,
sorry. Go ahead.
6 minute warning, and I'm gonna wrap up the show
Oh my
after this.
gosh.
So
Oh, okay. Well, then better not get into it because this is going to go. But everything comes down to services and goods and services in terms of economics. And so you have to provide a service. Now, you can believe, like, for example, like, let's say you create a YouTube channel and you're providing a service. And what it comes down to is that only the market, which is the people and the audience, can determine and will determine whether that service is worthy or not. That's what it comes down to. Like the market decides. You don't decide. I mean, you can have awesome stuff, but you might have no viewers. Because maybe nobody understands it. That's also a possibility.
not it's a skill issue. That's a skill and getting exposure issue.
That's weird that I'm on a stream and you bring that goods and services. And that's literally what one of the topics today, earlier today. Very cool.
Synchronicity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I agree. Like there are like many factors about skills, right? And then at the end of the day, okay, you have great skills and you have great ability to present yourself, and then maybe or you're a very good researcher, a deep thinker, and then you're providing a service. What is the service that you're providing, right? Which is disseminating the truth, decoding the matrix, or whatever it might be. But then, people will always kind of quote unquote question your motivation as to why you're doing it.
Oh
There's
yeah.
always gonna be haters. If you're not creating haters, then you're not doing something right.
Yeah. Hey, I'm gonna tap out. I'm falling asleep. I appreciate you, man. I
Right.
appreciate these conversations. Notch, you're a legend, bro. I hope to see you hop on the Melodome. We gotta get you over there. I'm gonna get into some gravy
Yeah.
with you.
Sounds good, Austin. We'll catch you later. Have a
All
good
right.
night's sleep.
Yeah,
You have a
take
good night,
care,
bro.
Troubling. Everybody in the chat, much love. Guys, like and share this show. Get him over 1,000 subs, guys. Share this link out. Share his channel, Troubling Tribune. Let's go. All right, I'm out of here.
Peace and love, homie. Appreciate you coming on, giving your unique perspective. It's a real, it's a real black sheep position to hold in this community. We're very religious and spiritual, and just about everybody believes there's some form of afterlife. And Austin comes in with the unique position of being okay with this being being the one life that we have. And I will just say I do agree with this point that it is totally fine for if that is the case, it doesn't make this life any less special. In fact, things do tend to have more value because they are limited. And that's kind of the mindset that he's coming from with that. But I do think that all comes from a scarcity mindset, which we don't necessarily have to adopt when we're talking about a potentially infinite creation. Death, for all we know, is an illusion, just changing form. Notch, final thoughts?
Yeah, death is real and not real at the same time. I guess I'll say it like that, because I mean, like, death is about identity. Like, we are identified again with this body and these experiences, and so there is going to be a death of this body, without a doubt. But if and when you can start to identify yourself with something that is more permanent than this body, then you do not experience death. Okay, that's kind of the secret, as far as I am understanding it. It's just getting there. With the limited tools that you have is the difficult part. Getting there to that point of realization is the difficulty.
Right. That's definitely difficult to realize your full potential as a human being. But hey, that is why we are here. The true fate debate, testing the truth. Iron sharpens iron. And I do appreciate you coming on and having the conversation. We do these every Wednesday at 10 p.m., folks. So if you are new, just catching this or watching this at a later time, then we do appreciate you. We appreciate you supporting the show. Like, share, subscribe. If you like the content, we got to get to over 1,000. We've been treading water for too long. Although I will say the community that I have gathered here are certainly some of the best, the most real people that I've ever met ever had the pleasure of meeting in the virtual world, right? In my entire life. So I appreciate all the love and support that we get from the community. We get tons of watches for as many subs as we have. I've been checking the proportions, and I'm like, man, you guys are really tuning in, liking the content. So I decided I was going to be putting in double the effort, doubling down, and just cranking this stuff out. That way we can really get into it. So I thank everybody for joining me. I'll do a shout out here in just a second. Notch, I think I already asked you. Any last words here?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, thanks for having me on, and then I'll just exit out of here. Cheers, and see you next time. Bye.
Alrighty. You have a good night, my friend. Feel free to join anytime. We do also open up the phone lines for the Tribune show. So always really fun there. Let's go ahead and close this out. All right. Huge shout out. All the lovely folks over on Rockfin and on YouTube. We appreciate you. We got Question the Answers, TJ, Trusty, FE Nation, Rob, Glow, Double Trouble. That is right. Boo Ranch. Thank you for tuning in. The Ascended Ancient. That is a sick name, bro. Man, the Ascending Ancient. That's awesome. I'm kind of jealous. Kevin, Doble, Doug, Maurer, Nominal, Renee, Bernays. Sorry. Terrible at pronunciation sometimes. It's been a long night. Long night. Flow State. I'll argue anyone about anything. Well, follow along, bro, because we do tons of debates. Awesome. MrTribune, I'll be seeing you shortly. Jeremy Bird, Shifty Eyes, Shady. Also, Jeremy, I heard that you have your canvas. If you could send me a picture of that, man, I want to see how you're enjoying it. All right. Bill Wheel, Nominal, Dominique D. Carmine probably. Whoops. Donald Piaskic. Man, I'm butchering some of these names. What are you gonna do? Sorry, guys. Okay, Austin Murphy, and I'm starting to go repeat. Shifty Eyes, Brianna Lynn. All right, Rockfin shout out time. Appreciate you guys. Sick. Doug Maurer, $5 tip, super generous. Thank you, my friend. The support means a lot. Big Pine Sailing. Let's hear him try to clap. Hold on, I got it. One-handed clap right here. That is the sound of one-hand clapping. You heard it here first on Troubling Tribune. All right, we also have Andrew B. Big Pine Sailing. I'm repeating Awesome. Wes, FE. All right, we appreciate you guys. Let's go ahead and close on out. I will see you. Man, I haven't decided when we're doing the watch party. But we are going to be, I'm going to be somewhere Friday. Just forgot. Zach Zabala. That's what it is. That's where we're going to be. We're going to be on Iron Realm Media over on Friday. So catch us there before the True Earth Debate TikTok edition. It returns. We are unbanned, unchained, and it is going to be an awesome time. So until then, peace.